session is under chemistry. Second session, biology. The third session is physics, and the last session is agriculture. So you have to know the pattern, so that whenever you take your book, you will know how you will study your science. Today, I'm going to take you through atom. I have treated this topic before, and I'm going to treat it again. Now, atom. Let us go back to classroom. We always call the smallest students. We always call the smallest students in our various classrooms as what? Atom. But they also form part of the class. Some of them are very intelligent. They also form part of the class. So here in science, if somebody asks you define the term atom, how would you define the term atom? Now, atom is the smallest particle of an element that can take part in a chemical reaction. An atom is the smallest particle of an element that can take part in a chemical reaction. Now, I'll be happy if I write it on the board for you to copy. I want to show you something important here. Now, look at the definition. Atom is the smallest particle of an element that can take part in a chemical reaction. Now, from the definition, we have to notice some key words in the definition. Now, atom is the smallest particle of an element. The smallest particle of an element that can take part in a chemical reaction. It is very important. You have to take note of them. It is very important. If you are told to define atom, you cannot define it without these words. So, atom is the smallest particle of an element that can take part in a chemical reaction. Example is gold. Now, a bit of a gold can take part in a chemical reaction. I just want you to understand that. It's the smallest particle of an element that can take part in a chemical reaction. Now, here, gold is an element. Gold is a typical example of what? An element, aluminum and so on. So, a bit of gold can take part in a chemical reaction. Now, I want you to know something here. We have two types of reaction, chemical reaction. We have two types of chemical reaction. The first one is exothermic reaction, and the second one is endothermic reaction. Take note of them. We have two types of chemical reaction. So, the definition: atom is the smallest particle of an element that can take part in a chemical reaction. And we have two types of chemical reaction. We have exothermic and endothermic reaction. Now, an atom also contains three main particles. An atom contains three main particles. I hope you know it. We are just doing revision. You know it. We have the proton, the neutrons, and the electrons. So an atom is having three main particles. It is also known as the component of an atom. It is also known as the component of an atom. If they want to trick you, or if they want you to think, they will not ask you, state the subatomic particles of atom. No. They will ask you to write down the component of what? An atom. It's the same thing. It's a proton, neutron, and what? Electron. Take note of that. Now, it is also known as subatomic particles. These particles are also known as subatomic particles. It is very important. Take note of that. So, the component of atom, we have protons, neutrons, and electrons. Take note of them. It is also known as the subatomic particles. It is also known as the subatomic particles. Now, let us go to the structure of the atom. We have now look at the structure of the atom. Now we have the atom here. We have the nucleus. We have under the nucleus we have proton and neutrons. Now this proton is having a positive charge. This neutrons is having no charge, and this one is having what? Negative charge. So the protons and the neutrons are found in the nucleus of the atom. It is very important. Take note of them. The protons and the neutrons are found in the nucleus of the atom. And the electrons moves around the shell or orbit or energy level. The electrons moves around the shell or orbit or energy level. It is very important. So here, this is the nucleus of the atom. This one is found at the center of the atom. This nucleus consists of the protons and the neutrons. And the charge of proton is positive, and the charge of electron is negative. The neutron is not having any charge. So a charge is what? 0. So the charge of proton is positive 1, electron is negative 1, and neutron is what? 0. The neutron is not having any charge. Take note of them. So this is the atomic structure, the structure of the atom. So in your exams, they can ask you, they can just draw this one for you. They will just write the atom here. They can clean this place. Here too. And here. So you have to take your time and read through and fill in the box. Okay, now here you have to write what? Your nucleus here. Here is what? Neutrons. And here is electron. It's very important. Now, the protons and the neutrons are located in the small, tiny central region of the atom. The proton and the neutron are located in the small, tiny central region of the atom. Assuming this is the atom, this is the proton. As you can see from the board, this is the electron. The electron always moves around the nucleus. It always moves around the nucleus. Take note of that. And this is the proton. We have the neutron, and the outer part is the nucleus. So the proton and the neutrons is found in the nucleus of an atom. The proton and the nucleus is found in the nucleus of the atom. So if you want to determine the mass of any atom, you can determine the mass of any atom based on what? The number of protons and the number of neutrons in the atom, in the nucleus. Take note of that, it's very important. We determine the mass of an atom based on the number of protons and the number of what? Neutrons in the nucleus of the atom. Take note of them. So we have the electron, which is negative charge, proton, which is positive charge. This one doesn't have any charge. The neutron doesn't have any charge. Take note of them. Take note of them, which is very important. So we have electron, negative charge, proton, positive charge, and the neutrons, it does not have any charge. So if you are told to draw the structure of an atom, this one too is accepted. You can also draw this. This one too is accepted. Okay. So this one is known as shell or orbit or energy level. So we have energy level or shell or orbit. So the electron always moves around the shell or orbit or the energy level. Take note of them. It is very important. Okay. So the electron always moves around the nucleus of what? An atom. So in atom, the tiny central region is called the nucleus. In an atom, the tiny central region is called the nucleus. Take note of them. The tiny central region is called the nucleus. This is the shell. We have an electron here, and this one is the shell or orbit or energy level, and this is the nucleus. I hope you are paying attention to what I'm saying. So the tiny central region of an atom is known as the nucleus. It means that the nucleus of an atom is always found at the center of any given atom. Take note of them. The nucleus is located at the center of any atom. And in the nucleus we have the proton and the neutrons. the nucleus consists of the protons and the nucleus. It is very important, okay? It is very important. Take note of them. Now, the entire mass of an atom is concentrated in the nucleus. I told you, the entire mass of the atom is concentrated in the nucleus. It is very important. So if you want to determine the mass of the atom, you can determine the mass of any atom from the protons and the neutrons. And the protons and the neutrons are located in the nucleus of the atom. So the entire mass of any atom is concentrated in the nucleus. The entire mass of any atom is concentrated in the nucleus. And it is measured in atomic mass units. And it is measured in atomic mass units. It is measured in atomic mass units. AMU. That's the full meaning, atomic mass units. It is very important. Take note of them. It is measured in atomic mass units. Now I'm going to draw some simple diagram on the board for you to see. On the board. Now, this atom is having 3 electrons. We have the nucleus here. We have the proton. We have the neutrons. And we have electrons. This atom is having 3 electrons, so these are the electrons. They always move around the nucleus. Now, you can see that the nucleus is located at the center of any atom. So this is the nucleus. And within the nucleus, we have the protons and neutrons. Within the nucleus, we have the protons and we have the neutrons. So so you can determine the mass of any atom by the number of protons and the number of electrons present in the nucleus. It is very important. So you can see that this is the nucleus, and within the nucleus we have the proton and the neutrons. Now the charge of proton is what? Positive. Positive 1. A negative charge. So you can be able to determine the mass number of any atom. They will give you the proton number and they will give you atomic number. But I want you to note something down. In a neutral atom, in any neutral atom, the atomic number is equal to the electron number. It is very important. In a neutral atom, the atomic number or the proton number is the same as the electron number. Now, look at this expression on the board. So look at this expression. A is equal to Z plus N. So if you want to determine the mass of any atom, you have to go by this equation. A is the mass number. A is the mass number. Z is the atomic number. Proton number. And electron number. And the N is the neutron number. Now, let me talk about this one, the Z. If the atom is in a neutral state, it means that that atom has not what? Has not lose or gain any electron. It means that that atom has not lose or gain any electron. If an atom is in the neutral state, it means that that atom has not lose or gain any electron. And because of that, the number of what? Protons is the same as the number of what? Electrons. So if that atom is having 8 electrons, it means that the same atom is also having 8 protons. If a certain atom is having 17 protons in its neutral state, the same atom is having 17 electrons in its neutral state. So I want you to take note of that. It is very important. So the Z stands for atomic number, proton number, and electron number if the atom is in the neutral state. And N is the neutron number. So if you are told to determine the mass of an atom, you use this equation, this simple equation. So A is the mass number, the Z is the atomic number, proton number, and electron number, and N is the neutron number. It is very important. Very important. Now, so let us solve this example.